Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's the continuation in the series on A-level English literature. Everything you see in this video comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to A-level English literature, which was of course written by Kerry Lewis, aka Mrs. Spag on Twitter, who also wrote the best-selling Guide to Grammar. Both books worth picking up. The A-level guide is £4.99 at mrbruff.com or on Amazon. So we're continuing our look at AO1 and now we're into structure. I gave an overview of structure in the last video, so make sure you're watching the entire playlist because it really will help. And in this video I'm going to look at the structural features of prose, and then another video the structural features of poetry, and another one will be the structural features of drama. So the structural features that I want to go through in this video are more common in prose texts, but some do apply to other genres. So why not put a comment in the comment section about the ones you think actually apply to other genres as well. With all of A-level literature, it's not just about knowing these things, it's about spotting them and then thinking about why they are used and how they are used. That's the tricky thing. It's not just about sort of device spotting. This is one of the big jumps on from GCSE. So let's have a look. Some of the structural features of prose, some of them are very simple. Paragraphs, of course, and like sentences, paragraphs might vary in length, and where they do vary in length, you want to consider the impact that this has on the reader. I was having a little look at a bit of Frankenstein a couple of days ago, and in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, chapter 5, where Dr. Frankenstein finally brings the creature to life, there's this huge paragraph, overwhelming to read, which reflects the overwhelming feelings the doctor has at the time. So as well as sentence length, think about paragraph length and if you can work out what's going on and why. Chapters, how do they progress the text as a whole? Do they end on a cliffhanger or complete a topic? Some books have very short chapters. I remember for my own A-level studies reading The Silence of the Lambs, and as a book it's fantastic. Very, very short chapters, 60 or so chapters I think. And the really intense short chapters create such a fast pace. And you just race through the book. I really recommend reading it. It wasn't on my A-level spec, I don't think. I think it was just one of the wider reading books that the teacher gave us the choice of reading. And I recommend having a look at The Silence of the Lambs for a book that uses chapter length to its advantage. Headings or subheadings in non-fiction forms, such as reports, these are useful to signpost a thread of discussion. But in fiction writing, they might be used as a hook to draw you into a story. And sometimes chapter headings contain epigraphs, short quotations that introduce a theme. You might also find graphics in prose. The extent to which they are in a text will depend on the purpose of the writing and its form. Younger readers often enjoy looking at supporting pictures for a story to help them understand what's going on exactly. Adults reading non-fiction scientific articles might welcome explanatory charts and diagrams. Graphics are an important part of non-fiction, certainly for adult literature. And finally, dialogue. So I don't know all of the books on the A-level syllabus, but most of the books will contain dialogue. And if you ever read a book that doesn't contain any dialogue, it can be very interesting to think about why that is. And if you have read a book with no dialogue at all in it, put it in the comment section, let me know what it is. But there are different types of dialogue, and you can look at how it's written on the page. Some of the ways you can use dialogue: direct speech, so she said, I heard something, that's direct speech. Free direct speech, it looks like direct speech, but it isn't introduced and it doesn't have speech marks. So the example here, she entered the house, stopped and listened. I heard something, it's going to get me. She fled. Now what we have there is this shift in narrative to free direct speech, and that really helps to put you inside the character's head and heighten the tension, help you really feel like you're experiencing what the characters experiencing themselves. Indirect speech is also called reported speech, As the speaker reports something that happened in the past, for example, she thought, what if they stared at her? Free indirect speech looks like indirect speech, but it isn't introduced. So an example would be, she nervously stood in the doorway. What if they stared at her? She'd be an idiot and trip over her long dress. She must pull herself together. With an air of apparent confidence, she entered the room. Now that example there at the end also begins in the past tense, but you can see the bit, what if they stared at her, she'd be an idiot and trip over her long dress, she must pull herself together. You can see that that bit there is a switch to free indirect speech with no she thought at the beginning. And this creates the impression of eavesdropping on the character's thoughts, and it's another device to develop drama and heighten atmosphere. One of the things that you can look for when you're reading your A-level texts is which types of speech are used for which characters. As we talked about in the last video, so often a writer will want you to empathize with one particular character or to feel, some sort of bond with one particular character. And that can be achieved through the use of speech for that character and how it contrasts the use of speech or dialogue, I should say, for other characters too. I hope you found this useful. Please do pick up the revision guide. It goes into much more detail, and also give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.